What's up, team? Welcome to the very first episode of the Jedi Archives podcast. I'm your host, Element, and joining me is my co-host, Sin. Introduce yourself, good sir.
I'm Sin. I'm the SinfulKnight. I go by Sin, Sinner, and mostly Sinful because people don't know how to just say Sin. But you could just call me Sin.
Just a whole bunch of sins?
Yeah, I'm a sinful bastard. Yeah.
Is it a religious thing?
No. It's just mostly, it's short for Sion, which is my name. And so Sin became a thing.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, let's open up our first Holocron. Rogue Rebels 1. I want to begin with first addressing the possible Obi-Wan Kenobi movie and its possible crossover with Rebels, should the timeline allow it. Now, I did a video on this when I first reported on the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie, and I did a fan cast and wanted to get your opinion on who I have for, I guess the three main characters that would cross over with Kenobi, and that would be Garrett Hedlund as Kanan Jarrus, Jake Short as Ezra Bridger, and Katie Lotz as Ahsoka Tano.
God, I love Katie Lotz. I mean, she could be anything for all I care. She could be Vader. I'll take it. No, actually,
I picked her for her eyes.
Yeah, she does have those eyes. God, she's on vacation right now. Anyway, enough of my Instagram stalking. You know what? No, seriously, Jake does have like a really good look for Ezra. I mean, maybe he could use like a stronger nose. No, he does have that strong bridge of a nose. Mm-hmm. As for Garrett, you know what? I have seen a couple of the things he's been in. He is a great character. He is a huge character in the expanded universe. And of course, he was such an, a great character that they've continued to use him in Rebels and all that. But no, yeah, as for Kathy Lotz, I mean, she herself, she's a great actress. She has, she could do stunts.
She has the action chops from Arrow.
And what was that movie that she was in where she's like a robot or something? I forget the name.
I don't know.
No, you were the one who told me about it, I believe.
Really?
Yeah, it was came out I think last year. It was right when she left Arrow. And then she put out this movie where she was I think like a robot or a cyborg. She was Ghost in the Shell before Ghost in the Shell movie was a thing. But it was pretty much that. And, no, you didn't tell me about it. It was my friend Ra. Okay. But anyway, all that aside, she definitely can pull off a good Ahsoka, I believe. And plus, Ahsoka's such a great character from the, animated universe. I definitely would love to see her, in any form.
Especially if we're going to expand on Vader's mythology.
Yeah.
Because she's a huge part of his past.
Skips.
And if we do a whole bunch of anthology movies with Vader, she should be at least middle to more major role in those movies, right?
You know what's interesting is that the expanded universe, the newly created expanded universe that is being shown in the comics now, along with Vader's whole little side mission stories stuff, he does talk a lot about Skips, Ahsoka. He does talk a lot about her.
Is it Skips or Snips?
Snips?
I think it's Snips.
It's Snips?
Yeah.
That still sounds wrong. Anyway, he does speak a lot about her. They haven't brought her. I don't think they've brought her back into the comics yet. But she does appear in Rebels. There is a chance to see her appear. I would totally love to see something like that. I mean, we're getting Rogue One. I doubt they're not going to show Vader in some form. I feel like even though the whole movie's going to be filmed along the lines of kind of like a war, a different kind of Star Wars movie. I there's gonna be some promotional trailer in the future, and you're gonna see like Vader saber from like the hilt or something, and it's
right. So that's not Vader in the back to tank in the trailer.
No, wait, was it?
There's a back to tank in the Rogue One trailer with a robed figure standing in front of it, and a lot of the videos about theories on Rogue One is revolving around who exactly is in that bacta tank, and a lot of people are saying it could be Vader or it could be Snoke, because they kind of need to bridge the gap between where Snoke came from.
Yeah, there's no way this film is not going to be expanded upon in the main story. these Star Wars movies are definitely going to be something that kind of says, all right, we're going to give you this original story, but here's something that bridges into episode 8 and all that, so there definitely has to be something, a main focus, a main reason why we're getting this film, this, this Death Star origin movie. If it's definitely not going to be, this is Rey's mother before Rey was born. If this is definitely not that, it has to be linking something else that's definitely going to be like this huge thing. So if it's not going to be Snoke or the Snoke origin, it has to be that. So
I think it needs to be though. Because one of the caveats that I hold on to when people talk about the saga films and the anthology films is that they're going to try to tell you, listen, the saga films are supposed to stand alone, and the anthology films are supposed to be spin-offs. But I think in this day and age, when we have the MCU and now just starting the DCEU, those universes, I think Star Wars would benefit if they started to kind of plot movies here and there that are spin-offs, but they help create and establish a universe that's bigger and connected in a way where, we see this guy in a bacta tank, he could be Snoke, and then it turns out to be Snoke later in the future. And I think Star Wars could really benefit from establishing movies that are interconnected in a universe, but stand alone by themselves as movies.
Where I go with you on that is, I definitely know they're going to be expanding upon each movie, as they make these in-betweens. If the next movie we get is not... Well, yeah, we are getting Han Solo in 2018. 2017, we're getting we're getting Episode 8. So we are going to be getting these movies every single year. This movie definitely... There's enough time for them to, take... What's his name?
Alden Ehrenreich?
Yeah, so Alden
wanted to talk to you about that too.
Yeah, so Alden is definitely going to be appearing in this movie in some form. He has to make a cameo. There's no way that they just casted this guy before the movie's even done being filmed, and they're not going to say, all right, hey, we want you to film this one, little short moment of the film. So it's definitely going to happen. They are going to expand on these Star Wars movies. They're going to show you, it's going to, think of it like this. It is going to be kind of like Arrow. We're getting episode, 8, 7, 8, 7, 8, 8. 8. We're getting episode 8 next, right? 8 we're getting next. So this Rogue One is kind of like the 5 years before, except it's going to be the whole 30 years before.
Right.
And then, after that, we're going to get a Han Solo film, which is going to be another kind of like backstory to what we're going to get in episode 9, or at least feature something we're definitely going to see in episode 9. I don't think it's going to be kind of like the old Star Wars movies that we got after the original trilogy. Wait, what was that? Cortana, what do you want?
Something went wrong.
Cortana, where's Chief?
Hopefully getting some R&R. He has saved the galaxy 3 or 4 times.
How do I turn her off?
That was awesome. Cortana knows me.
All right, technical difficulties. Cortana decided to crash the podcast. I'm sorry.
And then we'll just ask her questions, and she'll give us like the wrong answer or, Bing updates. Anyway. So
she could be our own little protocol droid.
As long as it's not 3PL. Anyway, yeah. So, now I remember where I was. All right. So yeah, back in the original trilogy, there were these Star Wars movies that were released. So there was like this Ewok movie that had nothing to do with the main story, which is a movie that took place, I think, on Endor.
That's right. I remember that movie.
I remember seeing it, I think, on HBO when I was like 9, 8, 7 years old, and wondering, because I thought the whole movie was a Star Wars movie, and I thought the little girl was like the daughter of like Han or Luke or something like that. And then like the whole movie is about how her whole family gets murdered. And I'm like, did they just kill everyone? And until maybe I was like 16, 17 years old, I continued to wonder, I'm like, what the hell was that? Did I imagine this Ewok movie? But anyway, I think what we're going to see now is not going to be on that level of randomly made up movies with the Star Wars name just to get like a cash in. I I still don't get why we're getting a Death Star movie. Most likely in the next trailer, we'll get more of some story behind what it is we're gonna see.
Yeah, I don't think it's like going to be a movie strictly about the Death Star.
Yeah.
In the fashion that you say it's like the Death Star origin movie, I think what they're trying to do here with this movie is, yes, it's about this Rogue One squadron that is going to capture the plans for the Death Star, which kind of leads to the Battle of Yavin. But I think what they're trying to do is make it a story about their efforts to get the plans, and I don't think the ending is going to be like, oh, they blow up the Death Star like in A New Hope and like in Return of the Jedi or whatever.
Because I mean, look, the thing is that if this is like a movie to steal the plans for the Death Star, we know how it ends. It goes into R2, it gets to Luke gets the plans, they blow up the Death Star, the end. And yeah, so to just say that this is a movie to steal the plans, because another thing is that, and we talked about this before Rogue One was even established as what type of movie it was going to be, when Rebels was being created, the whole premise around Rebels was creating a story about a team that takes place 5 years before the Death Star is completed, and like their final mission was supposed to be they steal the plans for the Death Star, and and that's it. Like that's supposed to be the one main mission that they fully complete. The one win they have against the Empire is stealing the plans for the Death Star, and
that was supposed to be the Rebels.
Yeah, that was the Rebels series,
and then that turned into
and I'm guessing,
Jedi mythology.
And I'm guessing they're just saying, we're gonna just make a movie because we're Disney and we could do that instead, and just keep Rebels going even longer and go off into its own story. I mean,
I think a lot of people kind of wanted it to veer towards that. I think the ratings spiked when Ahsoka was introduced, right?
Oh yeah.
I think it's the nostalgia factor too, because they never got closure from Clone Wars.
Well, and that's another thing is that Clone Wars ended when Disney bought out, Star Wars. With Clone Wars ending and them creating their own Rebels animated series, I'm guessing they didn't want to just say, hey, Rebels never happened, because there was not anything in Rebels that can ruin the next set of movies. Everything seems to have gone the way they could go. They brought back Darth Maul. They don't need to revisit that in a movie form. Of course, I don't know anyone who would say, nah, I don't want to see Darth Maul in the film. I mean, I'll still lose my mind if they released that Darth Maul video game. But they kind of like touched on everything we would want. It was its own thing. They introduced Darth Bane for that one final episode.
Are you up to date on Rebels?
Oh, I'm a little behind. But I'm starting to read the comics more, so I'm filling up on one thing before I get onto Rebels. I'm trying to find a way of getting everything of Rebels without having to own anything of Disney other than Disney Infinity figures.
Okay, so you don't. Okay, I have to tell you right now that Darth Maul is in Rebels.
All right, I guess I'm gonna watch Rebels now.
I just want to. No, I don't want to. I didn't want to go into spoiler territory, but
oh man,
but hearing you talk about we don't need to see Darth Maul again. He's been done. I'm like, okay, listen, he's here again.
Oh my god! All right, now I gotta catch up on Rebels. I mean, I watched. Wait, was he in season 1? He wasn't in season 1, right?
No, he wasn't. They just brought him back for right now.
Okay, all right, good. Because I know I did season 1. I know I didn't see him in that, or I know I didn't pass out watching Rebels and going.
I apologize to anybody in the audience listening who hasn't caught up to the latest Rebels season. That's just a little spoiler alert.
Well, no, it's not even spoiler alert. It's more like, hey, you're not watching Rebels? Darth Maul is back, and it got real.
Yeah, it did. It really did. And there's a lot to that episode that really kind of levels up Rebels in a way that you probably wouldn't have thought like the direction it could go if you were watching this the first season and then into the second season. You didn't know it could bridge so much new material. And,
something I did want to ask. Wait, didn't Darth Maul, or I feel like maybe you answered this question before, didn't Darth Maul die in Clone Wars when they brought him back? I feel like he fought someone, the next Dark Lord or something, and lost or something like that.
No.
forgot what happened with that. All right, yeah.
Like I said earlier, there's a lot about Clone Wars that not a lot of people got closure from that. You know, a lot of the stories, it literally just ended. So a lot of people, like, we didn't know what happened to Ahsoka. We knew what happened to Anakin, obviously, but we didn't know what happened to everybody else.
Anakin? I need to know more. I really am hoping that Hayden Christensen goes with just being Vader from now on. I mean, we have good directors taking over the films. He would be. I would just be happy knowing that he at least got to do Vader right.
Right.
You know?
I think, yeah, definitely, because I think a lot of the flack that the prequels get is kind of like the elementary school dialogue writing that Hayden had to deal with. And I think he gets a lot of unwarranted hate. I might get a lot of flack for saying this, but I think Hayden Christensen, he was not at fault for a lot of why people hate the prequels and that Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah. For that, you know, if he does come back, I mean, I feel like he will also be he is at the right age to be Vader in the costume in Rogue One and any other spin-off movie where Vader is still alive. I think that would just be great to know that, all right, you know, it's kind of like I wouldn't mind if, oh man, what's his name? Oh no, he has mental problems now. The original Anakin, young Anakin, little orphan Annie.
Oh yeah, that kid.
Yeah, recently, yeah, that
from Jingle All the Way, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah,
Jingle All the Way. Oh man. Well, yeah. So
put that cookie down.
No. Anyway, yeah, you know something I just realized: Felicity Jones is my age.
Yeah, which is great.
Oh wait,
she is our age.
Partners.
So is Alicia Vikander, who is the new Tomb Raider.
That's good to know. That is very good to know.
But this is about Star Wars. So.
Welcome to the Tomb Raider cast, where everything Tomb Raider is shot up. All right, so
speaking of Felicity Jones, what's the deal with Jyn Erso? Okay, so I had a question for you. Do you think this is the start of the feminist age of Star Wars? Because no, I don't have a problem with it, okay? But there's a lot of outcry from the fans now. Oh, here comes another female hero that's, you know, strong and independent or whatever. I have no problem with it, but I have to admit, I do see a pattern here where first it's Rey, and then with Rogue One, it's going to be Jyn Erso, another female lead who is the hero or the protagonist. And I'm starting to wonder whether or not, you know, they're if it is part of a feminist movement, or are they just, you know, exploring new angles from a storytelling perspective.
Well, you know, all that aside, I mean, I also know that there's been a lot of things about, like, girls into Star Wars. You know, there were, like, the girls being bullied in schools and stuff like that. I honestly don't think this is a way of just bringing, like, you know, one gender to, you know, the main focus. If that was the case, then, you know, you can look at it like this. We got 6 movies where the main 2 characters were men. You know,
right.
So I guess you could say that this is like a whole, not saying the focus is only going to be, you know, Rey, because it's the Rey and Finn, you know, adventure in episode 7, you know, with Ben Kenobi being the bad guy. You know, I mean, for all we know, this whole movie, like I said earlier, I think it's really just kind of a way of explaining a little bit of the past of where these characters may have come from. You know, it is a little bit suspicious that the female lead of a movie that takes place 30 years before the movie we just got is, you know, has nothing to do with Rey.
Right.
You know, so I really think this in some way is going to
Did they confirm that?
I don't know, but a lot
of theories are popping up now about that.
The one certainty that we have is that this takes place right before the completion of the Death Star. We have a female lead that looks like she could look like Rey, not just because she's a white woman, you know,
she has the accent,
who's also British.
Right.
The one other person in the galaxy other than Obi-Wan, you know, the third person in the galaxy that's British, we have her, and
that's interesting. Okay, what if she is Rey's mother and Obi-Wan is in Rogue One?
Ooh.
So we don't know any of this. I know this is speculation territory. This is theory territory, but they could possibly retcon his history. You know, the 30-year gap or the 20-year gap when he was in Tatooine, and since he's decidedly part of kind of like the Rebel Alliance. You know, he was involved in it.
Well, think of it like this, all right? What if Obi-Wan is in it? Because Leia would know to go to Obi-Wan for help.
Right.
But
you're our only hope. She puts the plans in R2.
Yeah, what if he was, someone who definitely helped them get the plans? And it was like, I must go back to Tatooine and watch over a kid who doesn't even know I exist in case some more bandits try to get at him, or he tries to do something like shoot Wombus or something. I think that, yeah, you know what? There's definitely a chance that this could be kind of like their big surprise for this film. Halfway through the movie, it's like, I like to introduce you to Obi-Wan. And then that's how you know that Obi-Wan was part of the Rebel Alliance the whole time. He was there trying to help them, but at the same time, he knew that he needed to keep his distance because Vader was lurking. He knew Vader could be anywhere with the Empire. And and for all we know, he just knows that there's another Sith out there in the galaxy. When he went into exile with Yoda, they were like, we gotta go, it's messed up. Mm-hmm. He could have been like, all right, but then got sucked into wanting to help and wanting to be someone because he's a Jedi. They help people,
right? And then in the comics too, issue 7 and issue 15, he is super struggling with not being able to help people. And there's a couple of panels where he's just like, oh, I hate being alone, and I hate not being able to help people because this is who I am. And he literally says, oh, I have to come to terms with not being a Jedi anymore. And so I have to wonder where that takes place in his timeline on Tatooine, and if before then he perhaps came back to the Rebel Alliance as General again, as General Kenobi. And Rogue One, he met Jyn Erso and whatever, and the council's not there, so he's a little bit more lenient in his approach to attachments and stuff like that. And they form a relationship, but then something happens in Rogue One where they have to separate, right? And as soon as they get the plans, Jyn Erso, like her team either dies or something, and they hand off the plans to Leia. And Leia, knowing Jyn Erso's connection to Obi-Wan, she sets up that recording to R2, puts the plan in R2 and say, listen, Obi-Wan, you're our only hope. Other than that, I don't know how Leia would know Obi-Wan. Unless the Organas are, feeding her information about what he's doing on Tatooine with Luke.
God, I so want to read the last Padawan now. You know what? Because I am reading the comics. I'm focusing a lot more on those now. I did not read the Obi-Wan comic that I know you were telling me about all these months ago, and I kind of held off of reading Poe Dameron this week because I just felt like I wasn't fully sold on it. It's a great story. But yeah, going back to Obi-Wan and focusing on that, I do feel like there has to be something more than just why off the top of her head, hey, let me get Obi-Wan. I know he's on Tatooine. She must have known, off the top of her head, it's like, who can I trust to help me? I don't know, the one guy who's really nearby, who's also a Jedi, Right. I forget why. Is it explained in the original trilogy why she reached out to Obi-Wan? I forget why. Other than you helped during a rebellion.
He was involved with Padme and Anakin's struggles, and he was there obviously on Mustafar.
Yeah, but in the original movie, she says to him when she finally meets him, oh, you helped my parents. Does she get to meet him or no? She doesn't get to meet him.
She doesn't.
Oh, right. They rescue her. And then when they're getting back to the ship, that's when Vader makes him disappear.
Yes.
I still don't get that.
Neither. But I am thinking right now. What if Jyn Erso is Rey's mother, but she's the daughter of Satine Kryze?
Ah. Wait. If she's the daughter of Satine, then that means Obi-Wan, the story of Obi-Wan, actually no, I think that's enough time, right? Because how much time was there between episode 3 and 4? 18 years, right?
20 years, yes.
About 20 years,
20
yeah, because during the Clone Wars, she would have been pregnant. Then it would have been 18 years to the Death Star, and that's when we have, Felicity Jones, the rip prime age to be whatever the hell she is.
And according to the trailer, she was alone since she was 15, so maybe she was kind of sent away to protect her from the Empire.
More random, like, hey,
more sending your kids away to keep them from danger, which actually kind of helps in messing them up a little bit.
I'm telling you, I'm totally gonna send my kid away if I ever have one, and be like, meet him 18 years later, like, I just didn't want to fuck it up. Are you trained in the arts of the Force? You're not a nerd? You're not my son.
So let's talk about Donnie Yen.
Ooh.
I know when we saw him in the trailer, twirling his staff, I so desperately want him to be a Force user, but not a Jedi. But I know that they said something about Rogue One not being or not involving Jedis, like, explicitly.
Well, you know what? That could just be more like cloak and dagger kind of like things. Because the thing is, technically, he could have been a Jedi, for all we know. He could have been someone, who's strong in the Force. I mean, another way to explain it was, which, sorry for bringing it up, but in the Force Unleashed game, you do meet a Jedi who was blind. And,
right.
And this Jedi, still Force user, still can fight, can still do everything he needs to do.
Kanan is also blind.
Yeah, so for all we know... Wait, he is?
Spoiler alert.
He's blind?
He gets blinded.
Oh, whatever. Anyway, so for Donnie Yen in this movie, I think he can be a Jedi. He could just be an ex-Jedi who, just doesn't use his Force abilities. He doesn't use a lightsaber to stay low key, to stay kind of out of the hands of the Empire. I mean, using a Force and using a lightsaber, it kind of comes around as a death sentence in this film, before Luke and the rebellion and everything else. I mean, it's kind of like outside of Vader, outside of Luke, there's no one around the galaxy using Force abilities. In the first Star Wars movie, to Han, it's a myth. It's all made up crap.
Yeah, it's hokey magic.
It's hokey magic. And in 7, to Finn, to Rey, it's like these stories about Jedis and Sith and the Force. And he's like, yeah, all of it is true. But that's because not many people use it. Because if you're using it, they're gonna look for you, and the Empire will find you.
So, what do you think of his chances in being a mercenary, non-Jedi, but a force wielder, someone who uses the Force to aid in his combat? Because I know that there are Force users that aren't Sith or aren't Jedi; they're just sensitive to the Force and they learn how to use it like mystics.
I think that there's a huge chance that he's an ex-Jedi, and him being in this film, it's kind of like their way of kind of keeping it, to themselves that, hey, we do have Jedi in this film. We're just not going to let you know they're Jedi. You just will know that they're Jedi. Right. And that's what I think we're going to get from Donnie Yen in this film. I mean, he's the only character we see doing anything that's fighting, hand-to-hand combat. And in the Star Wars universe, the only person we've seen using, any kind of staff fighting, any kind of fighting outside of Jedis and stuff was Rey. She fought with a staff. Not saying that she was trained by Donnie Yen. Not saying that
That's an interesting theory, though.
It's not saying that she was trained by Donnie Yen. I mean, again, she from what we know, and from what this theory is going around is, she was there when Luke was training the younglings. She's the one that survived. She's a wizard, Harry. She has some sort of training, and fighting with a staff, I think, is also comes along of, growing up on the streets of, that sand planet, Jakku. Growing up on the planet of Jakku, she develop her own fighting, her own self-defense, her own taking care of herself. I don't think she was trained, but I think that the fact that she turned out to be, a Force user, may have been trained, and Donnie Yen fighting with a staff, in a way, of course, it's Donnie Yen. If he was not fighting in his movie, you'd call bollocks on it. But yeah, Donnie Yen has to be some form of Force user. I think it's going to turn out that he was a Jedi, and he doesn't use his abilities, or he doesn't do anything because he is trying to keep it dormant from the dark side. He's not on Tatooine, where he knows Vader doesn't want to go, for whatever reason, because he doesn't like sand, and he's not
definitely go towards their efforts to kind of push this movie as a non kind of Jedi, strictly rebels, or just going away from the Jedi mythology, but kind of still have that presence in the universe.
Yeah. I think what we might also get from this film is that since we are going to get a Han Solo film, I think they're trying to pitch away from the Jedi stuff, because again, we're going to get our fix of Jedi stuff in the original, in the main story. What we're going to get from these films, we may get Vader, we may get some light Force usage, but, when we get to the Han Solo film, who, again, to him, he's never seen any Force abilities, anything like that. So I think that can definitely go into we're not going to see any Force abilities in those films. And if we do, by any chance, get a Boba Fett movie, we might get some Force using, we might just get other bounty hunters. But I think they're trying to establish that there are going to be different movies set in this, universe.
Yeah, I mean, Star Wars is much larger than the Jedi and Sith.
Yeah.
Kind of balance equation thing.
While we would love for everything Star Wars to involve Jedis and Sith, the Old Republic, that definitely can be filled with Jedi and Sith. But if we were to, let's say, do another MMO right now set within this universe, I think you could say we won't get any, Jedi. We won't get any Sith. We will only get, the smuggler. We would get the bounty hunter. And then we might run into like a Jedi or a Sith, because we don't have that established, group of Jedi. It's not like Jedi Outcast or Jedi Academy, where, in that expanded universe, Luke started training more Jedi, and and the Sith started to rise into power, and you have all that. This is a universe where everything's been, removed. We only had our, few Sith, and we only had a very small amount of Jedi, and they're still, beginning to grow. But, the Knights of Ren are going to be that. But
speaking of which, the robed Sith Lord in the trailer is, he was in front of the Bacta tank in the trailer that everyone's talking about, and there was the Sith Royal Guard.
Ooh, yes.
So who could that be?
I mean, maybe it's just Vader.
Or maybe is it just Palpatine?
Not Palpatine. Palpatine doesn't look like he'll take a bath. He looks dirty.
No, not in the Bacta tank, but the robed Sith Lord in front of the Bacta tank. That could be Palpatine, right? Because he's still alive at this point.
I would believe that it's not Snoke. I mean, Snoke definitely has been around since, the Clone Wars and before that. I don't think we are going to get Snoke. For this, I think it's going to be something else. Unless, what if it is Snoke, but he's, Palpatine's original master. And he's kept him, in this tank. He's kind of, kept him locked up, for all we know.
Which would be, for the uninitiated,
well, think of
Darth
it
Plagueis.
Yeah, if Darth Plagueis is Snoke, and... and Palpatine said, I killed him in his sleep or whatever. What if he didn't kill him? What if he tried, to keep him dormant so that he can try to, learn from him, try to learn his abilities, try to learn, to steal his power, his resurrection or his Force giving or, Jedi Jesus baby abilities that he has. What if Snoke is the one we do see in his tank? And it's Palpatine keeping him alive, Palpatine keeping him chained up, locked up, whatever, and under lock and key, under guard. Because to Palpatine, he's too strong to kill yet. And he wanted to, let's say, try to find a way to take his power, siphon his power, learn how to use his power.
Like continue to learn from the master, but not have him be the master.
Yes. Because
that's interesting.
Because, yeah, you know what? Look at it like this. Palpatine knew that his master had the ability to resurrect, the ability to cheat death. You know, then he says, I killed him in his sleep. What if that was his way of just saying, like, you know, I can do whatever I want. I learned his abilities. What if he did learn his abilities or was learning his abilities and he didn't actually lie to Anakin? You know, the whole like, I don't know how to, you know, bring someone back from the dead. You know, and what if to him it was more like, yet... What if, you know? So I think maybe that it could, I think it's a fun theory to throw out there.
Definitely.
You know, what if Plagueis was in the tank? What's in the tank?
All right, guys, we'll be right back after this short break. When we come back, we will talk about episode 8 and what we could see. All right, what's up, guys? We are back from our break. We got some Red Bull churning, some Monster. And we're ready to talk about episode 8.
This episode is brought to you by Red Bull and Monster. They do not pay us in any way, shape, or form.
Full disclosure. Full disclosure. We are not being paid by Monster or Red Bulls, just so clear.
No, I just see Red Bulls and Monsters in my dreams.
So episode 8 is officially slated for next year.
Yes. Yes.
So we know that it's going to start straight off from the end of episode 7. It's going to start straight from Rey handing him the lightsaber.
I think, you know what, if you really think about a Star Wars movie, this would also be the first time that a movie is a direct continuation.
Right.
But then again, it's like, how do you go from the ending we have, spoiler alert for maybe the one person who has not seen episode 7. At the end of the movie,
I think it's safe to say that if they haven't seen episode 7, they're not listening to this podcast.
What if?
Okay. I'm
kidding. No, I'm kidding. But no, think about it. Not one Star Wars movie has done the to be continued, and then the next one is like Back to the Future, where it takes place directly after that movie. But how do you go from Rey showing up, finding Luke, handing him the lightsaber, and then going 5 months later? You know, if that's the case, then it's going to be a sequel. It's going to take place after some time. There was that fan theory. Well, not fan theory. There was that really reliable source that recently where it was revealed that the movie takes place right when she shows up, and the whole thing between her and Luke is she does believe Luke to be her father, and Luke is like, no, you are my father.
Yeah. That kind of fanned the flames of the whole theory that she is Anakin's reincarnation.
Well, the whole thing about the numbered movies is it's always Skyward Swords. It's always a Skywalker story. And we know that every single movie has been a Skywalker story, no matter who the bad guy is. In episode 1, 2, and 3, it really was about Anakin, who does at the end turn to the dark side. So why can't it be that episode 7, 8, and 9 are really about Kylo Ren, who already is on the dark side? We have our Skywalker, maybe they may not focus as much on Luke as they would, because they want to keep the focus on the new cast.
Right.
And in that way, we do have our Skywalker stories. Because, for episode 10, 11, 12, we could have, the daughter of Rey, or son, if they want to break away from female main protagonist. We can have that. But the theory going around that Rey is the reincarnation of, Anakin Skywalker, it's kind of an interesting thing to think about.
But it also doesn't have much ammunition, because wasn't in the visual or the novelization, Anakin was supposed to be talking to Rey in her vision, right?
Yeah. Well, another thing is that, think about it. In the scene where Kylo is talking to the helmet, he's like, "Show me again, grandfather. show me the power of the dark side. By him saying, again, or I forgot how it went exactly. I listened to another podcast recently where they tackled this. It does seem like he has spoken already to his grandfather, or have like some form of Jedi Force vision. The way Rey had a Force vision by touching the lightsaber. What if, when Kylo Ren got the helmet, he saw the dark side. He saw the things that Vader went through, from episode whatever, from the moment he turned to the dark side up until the moment, Kylo got the helmet. What if Kylo saw like all these dark images and all the darkness that was around, Vader at that time? Mm-hmm. Because if Hayden Christensen or whoever is going to come back as a Force ghost and is going to talk to Rey or is going to talk to Kylo, then that kind of means that, he is good. And I don't see how reincarnating someone into someone... again, also the movie was said, this whole theory, or this whole, leak of what was supposed to happen. If Anakin is a Force ghost, and he's also reincarnated into Rey, and Luke is going, I have no idea what's going on. Mm-hmm. The whole that she is the chosen one or the chosen Jedi. If the chosen one is the thing that's being reincarnated into her, and then there is a Force ghost, I'm just so confused. I'm throwing myself.
Yes, I'm confused too because I was happy with Anakin being redeemed, right, and becoming one with the Force, and kind of just, focusing on Luke from that moment forward. And just like you mentioned, the whole franchise is about the Skywalker family, and that's the argument that you'll get a lot from a lot of people who don't believe Rey is anything but a Skywalker. And I wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit because if you watch my videos, that I'm a huge proponent of the Rey Kenobi theory. And here's why: because the movies from episode 1 to 3, 4 to 6, and now 7, yes, they're all about the Skywalker family. However, there has always been a Kenobi that is propelling the story, that is telling the story. See, we don't need every single person in the movie to be a Skywalker for it to be about the Skywalker family. Like, if a story is about a volcano, it needs to be told by someone else. It's not, the character doesn't have to be a volcano.
I know ever since we saw the movie together, you've been throwing it around. What if she is Kenobi? I am leaning on that a little bit more. It goes back into the whole, we expect her to be a Skywalker. It makes so much easy sense for her to be a Skywalker. But at the same time, if they're going to do the whole, you're my father. No, you're my father. And then, Jerry's...
Or even just half of that and saying, you are my father. And he is her father. How do you feel? I know everybody knows how I feel. I think that's just completely lazy.
It's too simple. Yeah, it's lazy. It's lazy. It's simple. I think the fun, round to go with this is, let's make her Kenobi, but she is the reincarnation of Anakin. Or at least the reincarnation of the chosen one that Anakin was. Anakin is now redeemed. Anakin was the prophecy of the child who will bring balance to the Force for whatever the hell that could be. But I do think that... kind of like a spiritual successor.
Yeah. Like Anakin was redeemed. He was one with the Force. So now the Force needs a new chosen one.
Yeah, and the Force needs someone to kind of be their hero. The one to make things right. Because I think it's more of... Anakin was to bring balance to the Force. At the end of episode 6, he stopped Palpatine, brought balance to the Force. That's what we like to believe happened. Not the whole, he killed every Jedi and there's 2 of each left. That's the fun, stupid theory. No. I think he did bring balance to the Force. And then he became a Force ghost, right away.
And he was done.
Yeah, which is kind of weird, too, because it took, we still don't have, the Force ghost of Qui-Gon, and I still want to see that ghostly bastard. But we got
He was also in Clone Wars.
He was, right?
In that one episode where they visited the origin of the Force, right? And they had the father, the son, and the daughter.
Right.
And he was appearing to Obi-Wan Kenobi.
So yeah, I think we could get that. We did, like if the original movies, if all the movies are all canon, except for, the Ewok tales, if all the movies are canon, then Anakin became a Force ghost. We know Anakin is a Force ghost.
Right. So
seeing Anakin as a ghost, if Hayden Christensen does come back, which I would love again to see him actually act and not, project.
Especially if they bring Ahsoka into live action.
Man.
And then just seeing Hayden Christensen and Katie Lotz going at it as Master and Padawan.
Man. I hope he doesn't kill her. Oh, man. I hope he doesn't kill her.
Well, I don't want to comment on what happened in the season finale, and I'll let you watch it for yourself. But they do touch on that relationship.
Skips.
And...
Snips.
And I kind of like the direction you're going with this, and the fact that Anakin wasn't the chosen one per se, but the chosen one is a mantle that someone who was born of the Force or someone who is Force sensitive kind of assumes. So Anakin at his time was the chosen one. He brought balance to the Force, and now this is a new era, and so a chosen one needs to be kind of selected out of the pool of Force users.
See, what I think we also need to understand is that these movies are made for anyone to just watch and enjoy.
Right.
There could be some writing where it would let you have to think. Use your mind a little bit. But at the end of the day, they're movies created for everyone. They're going to be PG-13 no matter how graphic it gets. We're going to have like these light shows going on. We're going to have funny robots, adorable BB-8s like the one I'm holding right now. And we're going to have like just dorkiness, but they're going to be simple. So the reason why I continue to think that the simple way of things is make her a Skywalker. Yeah, she's both Luke's daughter and father at the same time. Make it interesting. Make it that she is the reincarnation of, the chosen one. But she's the daughter of Obi-Wan. And all of that at the end of the day,
So how would that work? if she's a Skywalker but, a descendant of Kenobi?
In the way it is, she's a Kenobi, but she's now the next chosen one. And we still have our Skywalker story because Kylo Ren is the Skywalker in the story. It's revealed to us in the first movie. He is Ben, Solo, who is the daughter of a Skywalker. He's a Skywalker.
Right.
He walks the sky.
Yeah, I also want to point out an article that Writer Junkies posted, and they linked to my video on the Rey Kenobi theory, so thanks to them for that. I'm going to put a link in the description below. I just want to read this excerpt from the article, which was the 3 likeliest characters to return in episode 8. First they had Maz, obviously, because she's one of those kind of old ladies, the Yoda-esque character that's kind of like, the old wise one that's going to, obviously fill those shoes.
And let's not forget that in the graphic novel? No, in the novelization of Force Awakens, she is a Force user.
Right, but she says she's not a Jedi, but I know.
Yeah, again, it could be she's not a Jedi, but she was.
Right. Maybe she had a relationship with Yoda. Maybe she lived on Dagobah.
No, because remember, she has had her bar for 1,000 years, I think it was.
Yeah.
So, you know what? No, then she wasn't a Jedi. She always lived there, but she was a Force user. Well, she is a Force user.
Right, okay. Supreme Leader Snoke, obviously, he's going to be he's going to be the big bad, right, for the rest of the trilogy. And so he's obviously going to be there. He's going to be completing Kylo Ren's training. And then Obi-Wan. And this is where the article mentions me. They mention my Kenobi theory video. And they say this, okay, in a nutshell. There are a lot of factors that seem to be pointing to the fact that Rey is in fact a Kenobi. This would make so much sense and avoid the obvious speculation that most fans are making right now. That being Luke is Rey's father. The fight between Kylo and Rey in the forest seemed to allude in ways to the fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan on Mustafar. And this is one of the things that I alluded to as well in my video, you know, it had clear echoes of Obi-Wan and Anakin, the fight between the two on Mustafar, especially at the end when they started to hold each other's arms in a stalemate. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that and whether or not, you know, this could be foreshadowing in the fact that they could bring their relationship to a whole, like, full circle, come back to the beginning, and it would kind of redeem their falling out. It would redeem their friendship and master and Padawan kind of relationship through their grandchildren. Because I know, yeah, Anakin redeemed himself in Return of the Jedi, and he became a Force ghost, and he was standing happily next to Obi-Wan. But I'm wondering if, like, both of them are kind of on the other side, kind of arguing. It's like, you were supposed to be the chosen one, and, you know, they're still arguing about it. And then their grandchildren, you know, kind of emulating their grandfathers, are gonna kind of bring that relationship in, you know, full circle, and there's gonna be closure like that.
I could just think it was like, you were supposed to be the chosen one, and Anakin's like, well, you know, when it mattered, I was the chosen one. I killed all the younglings, yes, but I also killed Palpatine. Am I right? But you know,
so 1 + 1 = 2.
1 + 1 = snow. Anyway, I think, you know what? That's actually really, really awesome to think about. I did not think about it like that. That one scene where Anakin and Obi-Wan are fighting on the lava pit thing on that.
The lava river?
On their Ninja Turtles in Time hoverboard things. That was a Turtles in Time hoverboard level. Anyway, that is really an awesome picture to think, because, you know, it's like now you can kind of like take the picture of both of them where Kylo's like, I can train you in the Force, and then she closes her eyes and she's like, I hope he totally doesn't stab me right now while I channel the Force. It would be an awesome idea to see both, like, you know, Obi-Wan and Anakin, and then, you know, Kylo and Rey, you know, just side by side, those two images, you know, that'd be an awesome poster.
Right. So I did mention this in my theory video. When she closes her eyes, it looks like she is talking to someone. And I don't know if you saw the entirety of my theory video. You might have just kind of skimmed through it. But I
wouldn't do that.
But I did say that ever since she touched the lightsaber, and ever since, you know, Alec Guinness was like, Rey, and then these are your first steps, it looks like in every scene, like delivering a Force technique, that she's being taught, like, right on the spot. So if we look at the frame where she's telling Daniel Craig, you will remove these restraints and leave the cell with the door open, right? The face after that, she's like, holy crap, that totally worked. And so I'm thinking, ever since the Force awakened within her, Obi-Wan has been communicating with her, just like he did with Luke, right? And so he's telling her where to go, how to hide, how to sneak around, right? Because she's a scavenger. How else are you going to explain? She is literally solid sneaking around the Starkiller base. And then, yeah, it comes back to the fight where he says, you need training. You need, I can teach you the ways of the Force. And then she said, the Force? Oh yeah, that's right. Closes her eyes, talks to this mysterious person that's been communicating with her, and is like, listen, I need your help. What should I do? And then, you know, obviously Obi-Wan's like, do not give up hope. You know, trust in your feelings. You know, stuff like that. Reach out with your feelings.
Well, not just that, but it does go back to the original first movie where, you know, Luke's tracking system was out, and you know, use the Force. Yeah, you know, he says, I can train you in the Force. She closes her eyes to channel the Force. Something where, again, if she has had Jedi training, she would be able to kind of like bring that out of her. Mm-hmm. You know, if she had any kind of training when she was, because again, remember, Jedi are trained from a young age. She was already getting her training, you know, as a youngling, you know, when the Knights of Ren was like, we're going to go and kill everything. Because when we see her left on Jakku, she can't be no more than like 8 years old. You know, so she spent, 8 years on, you know, that planet. Then again, how old would Kylo Ren be compared to her? 13? 14?
I know that they're at least 9 to 10 years apart.
You think he's 10 years older than her?
Because they describe her as being 19 to 20 years old. And I think they also describe Kylo Ren in the visual dictionary as being like close to 30, like in his late 20s.
Because if he's close to 30, then that means Han put a baby in that like right after.
Yeah.
Right after episode 3.
Yeah,
was
they
like...
got down. No, they threw down. Him and Leia threw down as soon as he was like, he's my brother. He's let's go.
He was like, look,
let's go get this thing
he was
done.
Like, this nub. We got the nub. Anyway, yeah, I guess so. It would, because again, it would make sense that, the Luke's first trained Jedi, was the first one to get turned to the dark side. I mean, because it
was a Kenobi again that gave his freaking his father's lightsaber back to him.
Yeah, because look, the whole thing with Kylo Ren and Luke, the whole kind of like backstory of why would Han and Leia be apart for so long, I think it really does come down to, Luke started training, Kylo turned to the dark side, and it split that family apart. So with Rey, I really think that what you're saying does make it does hold more than everything else. Rey being, a Kenobi, and then, and Kylo being the Skywalker, it does, kind of do a callback, because in a way, they did kind of train together. He would have been old enough to be at the same age gap as Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Right.
Because Anakin was, 10 years old when he met Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan was, he was a Padawan who I would say is about 18 to 20 years old also. So the age gap, I guess you could say, also makes more sense. They have the same age gap as the previous, except that it's now the Skywalker who is older by 10 years and a Kenobi who is, younger. And it does do that whole exact mirror thing that everyone's like, oh, the Force Awakens is just a copy of the original trilogy. It was like, what if it goes even further back and just kind of like takes these themes, takes a little bit of what we got from, the prequels, and creates kind of like this whole new story, this whole new, what's the word I'm looking for? This whole new dynamic between Rey and Kylo. I mean, it does change it around. She's a female, instead of her being a male Kenobi, but I still like the idea of her being Rey Kenobi, and we got Kylo Ren, who's Ben Solo, but he really is, a Skywalker. You do have like these little things that kind of like link everyone together. And it makes sense. I mean, the only one out of this whole movie that is kind of like is Finn, who it's like he has no lineage. He is the original character. I still think
he has Force powers. I still think he's sensitive.
I don't think so.
I think they're playing it down right now.
I don't know. I don't think he's sensitive at all. The only thing we saw from Finn is that, when it came down to it, when it came to someone he cared about, he would be brave. He would suck it up and fight for someone he cared about.
Well, the reason I believe there's some type of sensitivity there is, the Stormtrooper program for the First Order, they're bred from birth, right? And so seemingly they're being brainwashed into, or conform, into what is it they call it in episode 7? They wanted to send him to the reevaluation chamber, or that place where they need to reconform him or something to make them more susceptible to suggestion or something.
They were saying they were gonna put him in timeout, and he was gonna you don't come back until you're focused on being a
reconditioning. It was a reconditioning thing, whatever.
Yeah.
Procedure. Anyway, I think he has some Force abilities because he, among many stormtroopers, having gone through this conditioning to not think for yourself, to follow orders and stuff like that, resisted that and kind of had had the ability to kind of see through what they were doing. It was like, we're killing innocent people. What's going on? This isn't right.
It would make sense that, I guess but then again, you know what? No, what if?
And then they get into what's it called? The TIE fighter, and he's good. He's good at shooting.
But here's the thing: what if, for Finn is just mirroring what Han Solo did? Because what Han Solo did was he was a cadet for the Empire. I guess realized, nah, I don't want to be an asshole. And then, and we kind of get that from Finn, because I think what we're going to get from a Han Solo movie is going to be sort of like the longer version of what Finn went through. Finn, his first mission were, so to go down on this planet, murder everyone you see, and then, and then, like, for him, it was more like he saw someone die in front of him, and then they're like, all right, now kill everyone. It could just be that out of all the stormtroopers who went through their reconditioning, who went through this conditioning from a very young age, he was just one of the few who saw it as, this is messed up. It could be for Finn that he is just what he is. I think making him like another Force-using Jedi.
Well, not Force-using. I think there's some sensitivity there. Just like the theories out there that say that Han Solo is also Force sensitive, and that his piloting abilities is how he uses the Force.
I think, up until maybe recently, I was like, yeah, Han Solo, he used the Force. He was a Force user, and that's why he can get out of almost every situation. That's why he can sense when he had a bad feeling about something. That was him sensing.
Exactly.
My spider senses were tingling. But it could also just be that he was someone with a really good gut. Someone who was just
but
really...
who's to say that the gut isn't a production of the Force? Right?
The Force does flow through everyone.
Exactly.
And you know what? I believe that. I believe the Force flows through me and you and this mic. But
it is blue.
Yeah. I just think that...
And it's called phantom power.
I think that the fact that, it was never established that Han was a Force user... is the same reason why we're probably not going to get Finn as a Force user. They want to keep some people outside of it so that the whole movie isn't, what we got from the prequels.
Or that, like, they want to keep they want to establish someone that has skill and talent outside of being helped by mystical forces.
Yeah, because again, you know what? When you do that, then it becomes the Superman effect again. It's like, how do you beat Superman? Create another Superman. And if we had nothing but, characters in this universe that all had Force abilities, it goes back to kind of like the prequels again. It's like, who do you put up against, a bunch of Jedi, a bunch of soldiers, shooting them in the back? It's kind of like when we had in episode 2 when they were in that ring and they're like, Django, get out there, and Django lands, and it's like, I'm gonna fight this from the ground. I mean, he wasn't in the sky shooting, and they knocked out his jetpack, and he's like, well, what am I gonna do? Slowly back up and shoot, and hopefully Mace Windu won't he's beheaded. And that's what we would get, when Finn in the trailers picked up the lightsaber. Even in the movie, when this guy was like, traitor, and we saw Finn fighting and everything, and we saw that he can fight, but the fact that he's not a Jedi, it was something that was different. The only other person we've seen in the whole expanded universe to use a lightsaber and not be a Jedi,
Night Sisters,
was Han Solo. In the Hoth movie, as I like to call it, remember, he turned on the lightsaber, cut open the tauntaun. He cut open the tauntaun. This could just be like mirroring that. Like, he's a cadet, he quit being, a stormtrooper. He's someone who used a lightsaber and is not a Force user. He could just be, that rebel, that person who uses a gun, that or blaster.
But I think lightsabers now have kind of devolved in a way that which it's just become kind of like a weapon. Because in Clone Wars, the Night Sisters, when Ventress is exiled by Dooku, she goes back to the Night Sisters, and she asks them for help to go assassinate him, and she gives them lightsabers. and they train with swords and bows, but seemingly they take those lightsabers, and obviously they get their ass kicked, but they were still able to use it. So I'm wondering if Finn has any type of force sensitivity, or if he was just going off of his vibro sword training from being a stormtrooper. Because if you read Before the Awakening, he does go through that training.
Yeah. I think we are again, for the sake of like what we have in these movies now, because look, we also have Poe Dameron, the sexiest pilot in the galaxy. He is
potentially gay.
Hey, don't you ruin this for me.
Nothing wrong with that, people.
I'm just saying, I want to be him. Women want him. Men want to be him. No, look, for Poe Dameron, he is that sexy badass. I don't think he's going to be the sexy badass to also be the Han Solo. Again, it's kind of like the whole, Rey is a Mary Sue of this movie, because it's like she gets into the aluminum Falcon, and I like to call it the aluminum Falcon. Thank you, Robot Chicken. No, she gets into the aluminum Falcon. It's
the Millennium Falcon.
Okay.
According to Harrison Ford, it's the Millennium Falcon.
So she can reconfigure it. She can fly it like a badass. And then Finn has his, I got one moment. I really wish he said, don't get cocky, kid. But anyway, what we get from Finn is he's the shooter. He's not really a pilot. Mm-hmm. But, so I guess that's like also the big change, the big difference between him and Han. Rey is the pilot. Rey can fly. So of course, so can Luke. And then of course, so does Poe. Poe's the flyer and like the rebel fighter. So he's kind of like the mixture of Han and he's kind of just like the Han Luke fighter guy. Mm-hmm. With Finn, he's kind of like the Luke Han, where it's more like he's not the pilot, but he is more of like the ground fighter. And just, I guess that's a bad theory, but a bad analogy. But I guess for Finn, he's just someone who is new, because even Lando flew.
Right. It was originally Lando's ship.
It was? It was.
Han, he gambled his way into winning it.
I really wanted the deleted scene from that movie to be like, my old clothes are in here too. Han keeps wearing everything I have.
So where does Finn go in episode 8 and 9?
Well, all right. Finn was badly damaged or, whatever, but I don't think that's going to affect him in any way. I think much like how everything always goes, he's going to get healed, and I think he's just going to like try to make his way towards Rey so we can have that buddy cop thing again. Because you're also forgetting like the one guy or the one Wookiee in the room. What does Chewie do?
You just said that.
The one Wookiee.
I'm so sorry, guys. I don't want to allude to a kind of like a racial slur, but like him being the Wookiee of the relationship.
No. Because I'm like, what do we do with Chewie? Because it's like, we had Chewie and Han as like the dynamic duo. Right. And then of course like Luke was there, and then it was Leia, and Leia was kind of like mostly with Han. So it's like we had Han, Chewie, and Leia. Han, Chewie, Leia. Yeah. So we had those three: guy, girl, Chewbacca. What are we gonna do with Chewbacca in the next movie?
Is Chewbacca gender ambiguous?
No, Chewbacca is a dude. We've seen his family in the horrible Star Wars Christmas special. The best way to watch that too is watch the JonTron version of that. It's just so good and bad. But yeah, what do we do with that? I mean, is that going to be the dynamic? Is that going to be the trio, those three, and Poe Dameron doing his own thing?
Could be.
It's like I just want to see more Poe. I need more Poe.
We're gonna get more Poe, obviously, because he's the ace pilot. Okay, they're obviously gonna hit on those themes in episode 8 and 9. But what I want to ask you about now is the possibility of in episode 8 and 9, if Rey is a Kenobi and Kylo is is representing Anakin, would it result in a Kylo redemption? In which case, they have to team up to fight Snoke. Because then that would bring that, like as I was saying earlier, it would bring their relationship full circle, and they would be Master Padawan again.
I think what we will end up getting, I think we are going to get a Kylo turn to the light. I think what might lead to that is if they are ballsy enough to ever kill off Luke. Mm-hmm. I think that would be the biggest, ballsiest thing to do. But what I think we might also get is Luke just going off and doing his own, training again, or going into exile. For Kylo, I think what we'll end up getting, he's gonna turn to the light. It's gonna be one of the many theories also going out, because there is so many out there. I think one of the best ones to think about is that he is in the light. He is in the light. He is trying to stay in the light and channel the dark. I really think that
like a gray Jedi.
I think he, that whole theory that he's on this real mission to like bring down or whatever. I think he did the whole like dark side thing, and he's kind of like, it's not that cool. or I think it also could just go down to the whole, he is gonna be Vader for a while. He's gonna try hard to be Vader, and then he's gonna he's gonna find out one thing that's gonna be like, all right, I gotta be good. I cannot do this one thing, And for Vader, the one thing that he had to do was watch his son die. His son refused to kill him, even though in that whole final scene, it definitely was kind of like what they were originally gonna do. Luke did look like he was turning to the dark side. He started wearing black,
right.
And all that,
just like Anakin.
Yeah, God, it's just so wrong. But anyway, because originally in the original movies, in the original trilogy, after the second movie, Luke was supposed to start turning over to the dark side. And, to make more money and to sell toys, they were like, let's keep him in the light and also add these little teddy bears.
Right.
So I think for the sake of mirroring the originals, I think Kylo is not going to get like a big death. I think he is going to be, someone who turns to the light. And, for the trilogy that follows after, whether it's going to be those two or there's going to be a new bad guy that follows, I think, or a new bad guy that's going to pop up in these prequel movies, I think that Kylo is definitely going to turn to the light. And it's, and that's going to be kind of like it's going to be Kylo and Rey versus
Snoke.
Blank. Yeah. Even though
Plagueis, if it comes to that.
Slagus.
But now that you mention it too, that is interesting. I like the double agent theory, only because after several times of watching that scene, it does look like he doesn't want to stab Han. It looks like the resistance that Han is feeling is him pulling it back, and Han pulling it forward. It's like, let me help you. This is what you want to do. This is what you're asking me of. Like, you need help because the light, it's killing him. The pull to the light. And so Han realizes this, and he's like, let me do this for you. And he's like, no, don't do it. And he's pulling back, and Han's the one that turns on the saber.
I mean, that's one thing that I like to think about. I really do think it was kind of like also kind of like the youngling thing, where it's like he had to do something dark, because in the comics there was that one scene where Vader realized that Luke was his son, and then he swore that he was gonna like kill the Emperor, and the Emperor like called him right away, was like, I feel you're gonna kill me. And Vader was
murderous intent.
He was, and Vader was like, no. I'm sorry.
It's just a flash.
I was having fantasies. I think we are gonna get, like when I heard the secret double agent thing, I thought it was the stupidest thing ever. But then again, it also would be the kind of like the best way for the story to go. Because for it to be a direct mirror of the originals, if he is going to turn to the light, I want it to be kind of like I was always in the light. I was manipulating the dark to stop you or whatever. It
would also put a notch on Han Solo's death about as being less of being killed by surprise and being something that he kind of perpetuated and brought on himself to help his son, so that instead of being stabbed by surprise and being killed or being backstabbed in a sense, he put the motion, or he put the gears in motion for his son to be redeemed.
Another thing is that in the novel of The Force Awakens, he recognizes Rey. He knows her, and he says it right before he fights her. He's like, "It is you." In the scene where Rey was having a flashback, Kylo does stab someone right in front of her.
Right. Someone gets. That's where we're going to. That's the dichotomy between us. I think it's a future vision.
I think that was Kylo killing someone who was trying to get to Rey, and that was kind of like one of Kylo's last good deeds, before going on his mission. If we're gonna go with the Kylo as a secret agent, I think keeping Rey alive was something that he knew he had to do because she's family, or because he cares for her, or because she was that youngling that he had a connection to. She is his Snips. Snips. He is her Ahsoka Tano. And then when he runs into her and he's like, in the novel, he's like, "It is you." And then that one scene where they're clashing sabers, he's like, "I can train you." There's so much emotion pouring out of him because he's fighting, to be this dark side, this, again, to keep up this persona, because Snoke senses him. Snoke knows where he is. The Force is reading everything to Snoke. He knows he needs to keep on this dark side, or else, if he is on this secret mission, then it's screwed. It's over. So at the same time, it's like he has to tell Rey, "I can train you. Let's hook up. Let's, go get some froyo." He has to keep the dark side on, but he also needs to tell her, "I can help you with your power." And then in turn, help me kill this guy.
That's interesting. The main reason why I think it's a future vision is because the scenery in that vision is totally different from the ruins of the academy where the massacre happened. It's totally different where Luke was in the ruins and he was touching R2-D2. It wasn't raining. In that vision, in that part of the vision, it was raining and it was more of a foresty area and there was buildings in the background. And I think it's also a future vision because then it would hint at him finally redeeming himself later on in the future. But it's also a juxtaposition to showing her past in the next vision.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's a future vision. He's saving her after, everything kind of unfolds in episode 8 and 9, and he's realizing what's going on and stuff like that. I can't really say why he would redeem himself, but, that would allude to him being redeemed in that way. And that goes towards my Kenobi theory. So that's why I think it's a future vision.
Yeah. She does have visions of the future when she touched the lightsaber.
Yeah.
We do know that for a fact. She did have the vision of running into Kylo in the forest. But I guess, it was a good, mix of future and past, so we didn't know exactly what was the future. And
we also saw the island as well.
Did we?
Because that's what Kylo sees in her mind.
Okay, no, yeah. When Kylo reads her mind, he sees the island. He sees, he sees all of that inside her. Whether it's the connection to Luke or, or
memories.
the future that she was going to go towards.
Right, yeah.
So it could kind of like be that he saw the future in her and didn't know what he was seeing. But I really do think it was. I do think that she definitely had that. She saw something in Kylo. Kylo is somewhat on the side of good because he was able to resist. And then it was also in the novel, right before he goes and confronts Rey in at Maz's at the bar, he goes into the Millennium Falcon. He looked around, he saw the pilot seat, and I think it says something like, he remembers his past or the times he used to spend in the cockpit and all that. So I do think that there is goodness in Kylo Ren, and again, it's just we're gonna get that big reveal that he wasn't bad all along, that he's just been holding it all in. I mean, look, another thing that you could say that shows that he is on the side of good is, does he kill any of the people who give him bad news? Does he take out any of his frustration on anyone other than machinery?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, whenever he needs to throw a fit, he keeps it to himself. He lets the anger out. He sabers a whole computer thing. He's like,
venting.
Yeah, he vents. He doesn't take it out on the people that he's venting to, that are giving him this bad stuff, this horribleness. He has a problem. The girl got away. If it was Vader, Vader's like, I gotta force your neck.
Yeah, I guess. That's a good point too. So I guess we could look forward to, Rey and Kylo, possibly even switching.
Yeah,
Rey going to the dark side, Kylo going to the light.
Yeah, but
that's also one other theory. I don't. Okay.
I think that would be really all right. One thing, because I know we're getting to that point.
Yeah.
For Rey to go to the dark side, I think that would be even worse than the whole she is the protagonist, because then it's like the one female main character you have, you turn her bad. I don't think they're gonna do that. She's now this beacon of hope for all lady nerds out there. It's like
it's out there though.
Yeah,
I just want to mention it just because
I think she's gonna have her dark moments, but I don't think it's gonna be ever I gotta go kill these younglings.
Well, there are a lot of people proponents to the theory that she could be just gray, and that she won't be a Jedi or a Sith, and she would just be the balance in a sense. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. But that's for another episode. We're running out of time, so we're gonna wrap up this Holocron. I want to thank Sin for joining me. Sin, thank you. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more Star Wars theories and discussions like this video and share. You could follow me on Twitter at Element7X, all spelled out, no numbers. What about you, Sin?
You can follow me on Twitter at SinfulKnight. That's at SinfulKnight. The night part is like Dark Knight, like a knight.
So kind of like a knight in shining armor with a K.
Or you could just go with instead of the Dark Knight, the Sinful Knight.
There you go.
Yeah,
so
at SinfulKnight.
At SinfulKnight. All right, team. Until next time, may the force be with you.
Or if you're into the dark side,
die.
May the burritos be made well.